I might be a time traveler. This just happened recently, and I've been holding on to it because, honestly, it's been messing with my head in ways I didn't expect. I always read stories like this and thought, surely they're exaggerating or misremembering something. But now I'm not so sure. I was driving home late from a friend's place, just winding through a quiet village in Yorkshire. The kind of place with narrow roads, stone walls, and the occasional bottleneck where someone has to pull over to let another car through. It was getting dark, but not pitch black, just that bluish-gray hour when headlights start to matter. I reached one of those tight stretches of road and saw a car coming the other way. Naturally, I pulled over to let it through. Nothing strange about that, until I saw who was driving. It was my dad, but not my dad as he is now. It was my dad from 20 years ago. He was behind the wheel of the car we used to own when I was a kid, a now long-dead sedan with a very specific crack in the windscreen. A crack I remember vividly because he made it swatting a fly one summer when I was 9. His ring clipped the glass just wrong and left a jagged arc near the top corner. It was a weird memory to hold on to, but it was etched in my mind. And there it was, staring me in the face like time had folded in on itself. And he was wearing his old lambskin jacket and that farmer's flat cap he used to live in. I hadn't seen either of those in over a decade. They went missing when we moved house when I was 11, and I've never seen them again. Not in photos, not in storage, nowhere. Then I looked at the back seat, and this is where my blood went cold. There were 2 kids sitting back there, a boy and a girl, maybe around 9 and 5. Same age as me and my little brother would have been back then. Same hair colors, same restless fidgeting. I couldn't get a clear look at their faces. It was too fast, and the moment too unreal. But the silhouette, the movement, the feel of it, I knew. I just knew. It was us. And my dad? No mistaking him. Even if everything else had been vague, my dad has very distinctive facial scarring from a brutal accident when I was 3, followed by multiple rounds of facial reconstruction. His face has never looked like anyone else's. There is 0 chance it was a look-alike. I sat there in stunned silence as the car passed. I didn't wave. I didn't flash my lights. I didn't even think to move. By the time I gathered myself, they were gone. I pulled off the road and lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I felt lightheaded, like the air had thinned around me. I honestly considered turning the car around and chasing them, but my hands were trembling so much I wasn't sure I could drive safely. I had to sit and breathe for a while, try to make sense of what I'd just seen. When I finally calmed down enough, I called my stepmom. I didn't even try to ease into it. "Hey, where's Dad right now?" She told me he was sitting on the couch at their flat, a 2-hour drive away. Hadn't left all evening. In fact, she was looking right at him when I called. So what the hell did I see? Did I somehow see a slice of the past? Were my brother and I actually driving through that village 20 years ago, and the universe glitched just long enough to overlap 2 versions of us? Was it a time slip, a loop, a fracture in reality, a memory so strong it broke through the present? Or, and this is the question that's really chewing at my brain, what if I altered something? What if the me in that car from the past saw me too? What if I wasn't supposed to be there? What if I just passed my younger self and left a ripple? Was I even meant to remember this? I haven't told my dad yet. I don't know if I will. I'm still trying to figure out if I'm losing it, or if just maybe I saw something real, something I was never meant to see. And if that's the case, I can't help but wonder how many other people have seen themselves passing by and just never realized it. Called from the future. This happened in 2018, and to this day, I have no explanation. I'd like to believe it was just a glitch, a technical fluke, but it doesn't add up, and honestly, I don't even want it to. It was a regular Saturday. I was home, lounging around, watching videos on my phone. My dad had left early that morning for work. He drives a trailer and had a long route through the mountains. Around 2:40 p.m., my phone rang. Incoming call. Dad. Totally normal. Hello? Silence. Then a weird static, like the sound between two radio stations. And then his voice. Only it didn't sound quite right. It was definitely him, but deeper, distant, off somehow. Where are you? He asked. His voice was tense, nervous. At home. Why? You're sure? Yeah, what's going on? And then, nothing. The line cut off. I tried calling him back. No signal. Sent a message. Undelivered. I figured he'd just hit a dead zone on the highway. Happens all the time. Still, something about it felt off. 10 minutes later, the front door opened. It was my dad. Same uniform, sweaty, clearly just back from the road. I blurted out, "Did you just call me?" He looked confused. When? Like 10 minutes ago. You said, "Where are you?" Then it cut out. He shook his head. I didn't call. I couldn't have. I was way up in the mountains. No signal at all. Not even enough to send a text. We checked his phone. No calls made. No calls received. Nothing. I laughed it off, nervously, but he just stared for a second. Then said something that chilled me. While I was driving, I suddenly had this heavy feeling, like you were gone, like something had happened to you. It was so strong, it distracted me for a while. We moved on, tried to forget it, but a few days later, I looked through my phone, and there it was. A call from his number, exactly at 2:40 p.m. It lasted 18 seconds. It's still there. I don't think it was a prank. It didn't feel like a glitch. It was his voice, but not quite him. Almost like it was my dad from some other time. Or a version of him I had already lost. A few clarifications. My dad was working in the mountains that day, about 30 minutes from home. He was already on his way back when this happened, but his phone didn't have service. He never pays for mobile data. I wasn't mad at him, just freaked out. I think my original translation made it sound more angry than it was. I still have the phone with the call log. Haven't found the charger in years, though. Thanks to everyone who's commented, even if you don't believe it. I understand. I wouldn't either. Boyfriend came home. This happened a few months ago, and I've honestly been avoiding writing it down. It shook me that badly, but I'm finally ready, and curious if anyone else has experienced something like this. Some quick context. I live in a college-owned house with two of my close friends. My boyfriend is basically our unofficial fourth roommate. He's here all the time, and everyone knows him well. Like, really well. He's been tight with my roommates for years, and they'd recognize him from a mile away. Our house sits right next to a big, fully lit parking lot that belongs to one of the college's sports facilities. It's usually empty, unless there's a game or practice. That's where my boyfriend, and most of our friends, always park when they visit. On the night this happened, my boyfriend was at his fraternity house for an event. He'd told me he planned to swing by afterward. Around 11 p.m., my roommate and I were sitting on the porch, talking. Stone sober, just hanging out, when we saw his car coming down the road. Now, his car's very recognizable. Foreign make, unusual color, custom mods. I've literally never seen another one like it in our town. At first I thought, weird, he didn't call like he normally does. But as it turned into the lot, I was sure it was him. The car, the shape of his face in the driver's seat, the way he pulled in, it was all familiar. My roommate and I stood up to greet him. She got to the lot just ahead of me and waved at the car as it rolled past. But he didn't wave back. He didn't even smile. He just looked at her, expressionless, and kept driving. We figured, okay, he's being weird. Maybe he's messing with us. He's done little jokes like that before. But instead of looping around, he just kept driving, right out the other end of the lot, then down the road, in the opposite direction he'd come from. I immediately called him. He picked up, and I could hear music and people in the background. He was still at the frat house. I could literally see his car driving away while he was talking to me on the phone. I asked if he had just stopped by the house and left for some reason. He said no, but he was probably heading over soon. I told him I'd explain later and hung up. My roommate was pale. She doesn't like talking about it to this day, but she insists, like I do, that it was him. She saw his face clearly, and I know it was his car. Not looked like, was. We've had other weird things happen in this house, almost always tied to him in some way. But this one felt different. It wasn't ghostly, it wasn't threatening, it was wrong. We weren't supposed to see. This happened years ago, but it stuck with me in a way that few things do. I've told the story maybe twice in my life, mostly because I still don't understand what really happened. And maybe I'm not supposed to. It was late, close to 1 a.m., and me and my buddy Joe were driving through town on one of the main streets, headed to a 24-hour diner we liked. It wasn't a sketchy area or anything, just quiet. Mostly residential, some small shops closed for the night. The kind of streets you only drive down at that hour if you work the night shift, have insomnia, or just really need pancakes. We were coming up on this 4-way intersection. The traffic lights were in late night mode, flashing instead of cycling normally. We had the flashing yellow, so we had the right of way. The cross street had flashing reds. Nothing unusual, but as we got closer, both of us noticed something strange. Off to our right, maybe a full block away, we saw a car barreling toward the intersection. I don't mean cruising, I mean moving. Fast. I remember saying, "I don't think that guy's gonna stop." Joe leaned forward slightly, squinting. "That guy's not gonna stop." Weirdly calm conversation for the moment. In hindsight, like we already knew what was going to happen. I slowed down. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just had that gut feeling. That low, cold drop in your stomach that says, "Don't go yet." Sure enough, as we rolled to a stop, the other car blew straight through the intersection without even tapping the brakes. Full speed, right through the red. We both watched it happen in stunned silence. Then, almost in unison, we said, "He didn't stop." And that was it. The moment passed. I eased through the intersection once it was clear, and we kept driving like nothing had happened. We didn't even talk about it for long. Just a few comments, shaking our heads at how reckless that driver was. We figured someone must have been drunk, distracted, whatever. End of story. Or so we thought. The next night, same thing, same route, around the same time. We were creatures of habit back then. We were approaching that same intersection when something clicked in my brain. "Joe," I said slowly, "we shouldn't have been able to see that car last night." He gave me a sideways glance. "What do you mean?" I started looking around as we got closer. "Look at the street. Look at all the houses. Look at the fences, the trees, the way the lots are lined up. There's no clear view of the cross street. You can't see down it. Not even headlights. Until you're practically in the intersection." Joe stared for a second, then nodded. "Holy shit, you're right." We both went quiet after that. It's not like there was one big tree in the way or something we missed, the entire cross street is blocked by dense houses and front yards with high hedges and privacy fences. That's just how the neighborhood is built. There's no line of sight, not even at night, especially not from a block away. But that night, we saw it. Plain as day. A car, a driver who didn't stop, and a split-second warning that saved us. For years afterward, every time I passed through that intersection, I'd try to recreate the angle in my head. I'd slow down, lean forward, squint through the gaps. Nothing. Total visual block. There's no way we could have seen what we saw, unless we were shown it. It wasn't a near miss. It wasn't coincidence. It was like someone, or something, peeled back reality just enough for us to glimpse what was coming. Just long enough for us to know not to proceed. A flash of impossible foresight. A glimpse through the wall we weren't meant to see through. A glitch that even confused my dog. This happened just this morning, and I can't stop replaying it in my head. It wasn't dramatic. No flashing lights, no voices from the void. Just something that shouldn't have been possible. Something my dog noticed too, and somehow that makes it all even weirder. Let me set the scene. It was early. I was groggy and stumbling my way toward the kitchen to make coffee, like I do every morning. Just me and my dog, an Anatolian Shepherd Great Pyrenees mix, who's basically a walking polar bear and my shadow in the mornings. But as I passed through the living room, I froze. Right in the middle of the rug was a mess. She had gotten sick. Not just a little, enough that I immediately groaned. You know the kind of mess I mean. That half-digested, unpleasant surprise that's going to take more than a paper towel and a hopeful attitude to handle. I sighed, knelt down, gave her some soft words, and a few gentle scratches behind the ear. She looked sheepish, like she knew, but didn't feel good. I told her it was okay. Poor baby. We've all been there. I got up and headed to the kitchen for the usual cleanup supplies. Towels, gloves, carpet spray. She followed close, leaning against me the way she does when she's not feeling 100%. She never left my side. We weren't gone long. 2, maybe 3 minutes max. But when we came back into the living room, there was nothing there. No mess, no smell, no sign anything had ever happened. The rug wasn't damp, it wasn't stained, it wasn't even out of place, it looked freshly vacuumed. I stopped in my tracks. My dog, still right beside me, padded over to the exact spot. She sniffed it carefully, twice, and then looked at me. You know that look dogs give you when they're trying to understand something? Head tilted just slightly, eyes narrowed, trying to make sense of a situation that doesn't add up? That was the look. We both just stood there in silence for a beat too long. She didn't eat it. No way. She was with me the entire time. She's too big to sneak off without me noticing. And she'd been sluggish and leaning on me the whole walk to the kitchen. Plus, it wasn't just gone. It was like it had never been there. The carpet was dry. Clean, neutral, wrong. Did I imagine the whole thing? Was it some kind of hyper-realistic early morning dream? I don't think so. I remember the smell. I remember kneeling down. I remember touching her fur and feeling bad for her. And she remembers it too. I saw it in her face. She knew something had happened, and she knew it was gone. We both experienced something. Then it vanished, like a moment erased and replaced. And that's not something you forget.